Hey everyone, Sycra here, and today I'm going to be doing a critique of one of the forum members over at the Sycra.net forums. Okay, so what we have here is it looks like an Inuit person. I knew it! And she is holding a stick and probably traveling. Maybe it's not an Inuit person, just looking at the clothing it looks like that. And yeah, so I mean, the idea is cool, and obviously you're playing around with style. The face seems to be a little more of an anime style, and there's this thing that's going on where the hands and the face and everything, it's sort of clashing because you've got somewhat realistic things and then somewhat anime things, and they're all coming together and it's not quite working. So rather than go into detail about the details, what I'd like to focus on is the most basic things. So I'm going to create a new layer and just fill it with white and reduce the opacity just so I can see through. And I'm just going to draw a stick figure using your model. So let's get the head in here. Right, so it's our stick man's head or stick woman's head. And the shoulders. And the body. I'm using your drawing to determine where the waist is with the belt. So get this in. So that's roughly the body, and then the elbows and the hands. And you can already see like the hands are different sizes, although this could be foreshortened, but probably needs to be a bit more foreshortened. But anyway, and then the legs, and here's the knees, here's the other knee, and there we go. And the feet are there. So the first thing you want to ask yourself when you see this stick figure, and I encourage you to start with stick figures when drawing, but anyway, when you see this stick figure, how old is this person, right? Think about it, like, how old does this stick figure look? Does this stick figure look like a man or a woman? And now you might be thinking, well, I don't know, it's just a stick figure. There's no way unless I add definition. But actually, if I just draw, let me draw another one beside the stick figure. So here's a head, get a body. All right. How old is this stick figure? Well, it's obviously a child. Let's try this stick figure. And how old is that stick figure? Looks to be, you know, maybe a person in their teens. And we can see from the way the hips are, you know, that this is probably a girl. And so when I look at yours, I'm not sure. The face tells me it's a young girl, maybe 7 years old. But the body is telling me, no, it's an adult. And so these things are clashing. So I'm not sure what you're going for. I'm going to assume it's somewhere in between. So maybe you were going for a teenager. So let's get the head down and create a stick figure. That's, I don't know, maybe this person is 11, 10, I don't know, something like that. I'm just gonna get the proportions down. And this is really where I would recommend you work right now, is with stick figures, to get this sense, this general proportion. Rather than what a lot of people start out doing is they have this blank page and they will try to draw a face and maybe they'll look at anime and they'll see the big eyes, so they'll try and draw big eyes, and you know, it's all sort of happening in real time. There's no thought behind it. And then sometimes people do put thought behind it, and then they start with a head, and maybe they get the construction line down, but they're starting with the head, and then they're adding a neck, and okay, they get some cylinders down, and body's getting big, and then they start to add clothes. So okay, well, the clothes are obviously going to be on top of that, and this is what it looks like sort of happened with your figure. It does look like you did plan some things out. I can see here like there's a hint of that arm, but you're losing the big picture. Once you get the big picture, this is going to be so much easier. But you've got to practice from the beginning. You can start drawing really small ones, you know? You don't have to draw big like this. And you don't even need to know what you're doing in a way. That sounds strange, but I'll try and explain. So let's say I draw a stick figure. Well, I'm just going to make the head this big, and you could measure out the proportions, you know? One way of doing it is in my video described. Get the head, feet, split it in two, that's a crotch, and then you can sort of make a body based on that, right? That's one way for adult proportions. But another way is just draw a head, draw a box for a body, draw arms, and I would recommend, you know, watch a proportion video or look at some proportions in a book just to know how far down the hands go. So for instance, the hands usually go down to mid-thigh. This distance is about the same as this distance. The elbow is, you know, halfway between the hand and the shoulder. And the elbow is also lining up with the navel. So once you get that, then you've got a figure like that. Okay, so those are our components. So now what's going to happen if I make the head big and the body stays fairly small, add in some legs, and because we know, you know, well, it doesn't matter. You could make the legs really long if you want. The point is, do a lot of these and see what it looks like. Play around with it so that eventually it's like, okay, I know I did this once and it sort of looked like a little girl. You know, you do not one, not two, a ton of these. Do hundreds of these. Play around with it. Play around with different body shapes and ask yourself, you know, how old is this person? What's this person? What do they look like? And you should be able to get a lot just from a stick figure. Drawing stick figures isn't, you know, it's not like, well, that's just for little kids, because I draw stick figures all the time. And it really helps to give you an idea of what you can play around with, you know? So that's how I was doing this character. Let me just extend the canvas. First thing is just basic proportions. So let's say she's a teenager, so I'm even going to hide this for now. No, I'll keep it. Get the head, get the body. It's not going to be that big. It's not going to be that wide either. You know, with an adult female, the head is usually, or the body from shoulder to shoulder is about 2 times the head. So if you take this as one unit, then you'd put half here and half here, and that's the width. So you can see that's not that wide, right? And the body doesn't include the shoulders. You don't do the body like this and then the arms just, well, I do, but you know, you'd have the shoulders attached there. So okay, so let's get that. Body's in, the head's in. Get the legs in the position. Now I'm not going to look at yours because I want to I want to focus on just my basic person. What's this person doing? So you'll notice, like, even with my stick figures now, I'm not keeping it super stiff. And I think this is really helpful, and it's what people kind of don't learn. Because when you look in books, they always show you step 1, you know, create a circle. Step 2, add these shapes and plot where the nose and the mouth goes. Step 3, anime drawing, you know. But that's not really where you should be focusing in the beginning. It's no, stick people. Get the gesture, get the mood. So okay, so this person is doing what? They're holding a staff. So okay, so they're gonna be walking, and they're holding a staff. So let's say walking. Posture could be like this. The spine could be like this. So you could have like someone walking and they're all confident, you know, or could have a different posture where they're more, you know, hunched over a little bit and holding that stick and trying to get through this area that they're in. That could maybe be better to have them actually hunched over. So you get your stick figure, you get the feeling down, right? Don't be afraid to draw the lines many times and redraw them and just get the idea. You know, you put the foot there, who cares? You know, put it here now if it doesn't look right. Right? They're traveling, maybe there's snow and it's blowing in their face, so maybe this is more at an angle. They're climbing up. And you see I'm just drawing on top of my drawing. And sometimes people say, how do you draw loose? And one thing is, you know, use your arm to draw instead of your hand, because if I draw with my fingers as if I'm writing, this is the kind of lines I'm gonna get. It's not too pretty. But if I use my arm, get really cool lines. So one is that, and then the other one is practice drawing loose, you know? Practice being more free. And this comes down to style. You don't have to do this. A lot of animation people will do this stuff where it's like, yeah, practice building your characters out of scribbly stuff, and then you can, you know, add to them. But let's say, for instance, okay, this is our pose. We've got our pose. Then in digital it's easy. You just, you know, reduce the opacity and you can draw over it. Traditional, you might want to take a kneaded eraser and go over that whole thing. But anyway, so we've got our basic pose. Now we can start fleshing things out a bit more. So we've got the head, and we've got the body going back, and we've got the arms. And that's fine. Holding the stick, and the stick's at an angle, because that's more interesting. And you have the stick at an angle, which is good. And then you have, you know, your legs here. And then on top of this, build the next layer. So what's the next layer? Well, you could, you know, flesh it out a bit more. And good thing to keep in mind here is just how thick things are going to be. The body of children, especially, and this person looks fairly young, it's not, the limbs tend to be thinner than you think. Or at least for me, I've noticed a lot of beginners tend to go to the extreme where they make things too thick. So for instance, like that, you get a lot of this stuff going on, and it doesn't look quite right. So anyway, so we got that now. And then a bit more advanced would be to break this down into volumes now. So then you see how, you know, things are built and constructed. Maybe this isn't the stage you need to be at even worrying about right now, because you're still on constructing the forms, and then you would get, you know, things like, okay, they've got their hair, they got their face, and the basic proportions are right. So then when I zoom in and I do that whole anime thing where it's like, okay, here's the anime proportions, and you've got your eyes, and I'm not going to be able to match the style exactly, but try. Got your eyes, you got your nose, mouth. Then it starts to look okay because the proportions are working. And with anime, they exaggerate as well, so the heads are usually even bigger. So when you have your stickmen, you have to account for that. And then you've got your hair. And these braids. And a hood. And then, yeah, so that stuff, you're better at doing that. Like, that's fine. All the extra stuff isn't your problem right now. Your problem is the stick figure. You gotta build your stick figure and get your proportions right. Right? And then everything else, it's just icing on the cake. But you need a cake first. And your cake is your stick figure. So, hope that helped, and thanks for watching.